I'm Michelle Wing. I am founder of It's Yoga Kids. I'm about to be on the Prosperity Show, and what you can expect to learn is some benefits of yoga and kids and my path to following my own purpose and peace and passion in the world.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, your premier destination for exclusive insights into personal and professional growth. I'm your host, Taruvinga, and today we've got a guest whose journey seamlessly blends artistry, corporate acumen, and also entrepreneurial spirit. Now, Michelle, how are you doing today?
Hi, Prosper. I am doing very well, and it's so nice to meet you and to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine, and I can't wait to explore your journey, which, as I was saying, it really reads like a fantastic trip to self-discovery. And for those that are wondering, our guest today, Michelle Wing, the founder of It's Yoga Kids, has actually transformed her passion for movement and wellness into a beacon for children's health worldwide. Now, Michelle, I know they always say never, play with kids or never act or be around kids and animals, but it seems like this has been a thing for you from Disney, ballet, and now you're doing it with kids. Tell us a little bit about your journey, and what led you to start doing what you're doing today.
Oh, thanks for asking. Well, I grew up in Arizona in the United States, and I was a tennis player, and then I discovered dance, and I really loved dance because I could achieve in auditions and in high stakes outcomes without another person losing. Like, me winning didn't mean that somebody else had to lose, which is different than tennis. And my dad is still the number one tennis player in the world in his age bracket. So that was quite a competitive flurry that I was growing up in. So I loved dancing and I loved being on stage. I did some auditions. I worked for Ballet West. I got hired for Disney, and I also loved school. My parents were of the mindset that you could be a ballet dancer as long as you had a business degree. So I was going to school and getting a business degree, but I was still a ballet dancer.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. When you started mentioning you're a tennis player that discovered dance, I just thought we had Serena Williams on the call today, but then
No, she's a real powerhouse. She's got a lot more power than me. I'm not sure how much more grace I might have, but she's got a lot more power, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
She's a wonder. She's a wonder.
And thank you so much for opening us up with that. Now, you did mention as a kid, you wanted to play tennis, and obviously maybe the influence would have come from dad. What was growing up like? Obviously, growing up with somebody who's got that competitive spirit and somebody who's a champion already in their own right.
Yeah, my dad had a really good balance of wanting to make sure that his kids were exposed to as many activities as possible, and certainly the ones that he loved the most. And he also was really balanced in his approach to having us be competitive and being our best and finding our own path. So I really appreciate that about him. He did a great job of that.
Absolutely. And also there was talk at the dinner table of, you could be a dancer, but it has to be accompanied with a business degree or some degree of some sort. Was that the influence of mom now, who may have wanted that side of, academia to grow within what you're doing?
I do really think that is an influence of my mom. I think what happened, I grew up in the age of what's called Title IX here in the US, which was access to sports for girls, and now young women. And I think my mom really wanted me to be very capable and independent and able to care for myself. And I think she wasn't sure that I would get to have the lifestyle that I truly wanted as a dancer, but she knew if I had a business degree that I would be able to find my own way. And she was right.
Absolutely. That's quite interesting because you've got the balance of both worlds, the artistic and also the academic, whichever way you were never going to lose. Now, I know kids these days, I've got kids of my own, and I can't even get them to eat breakfast, even if it's to help them get nourished and things of that nature. They can't get off their devices and things of that nature. Is that something that you think kids are missing out these days, or was it too much work, put on the kids of the time when you were growing up? Because both ages are completely different.
They are. Well, I am fortunate. I am the last generation that grew up without any devices. So I'm of the generation that had a lot of freedom. I'm in that Gen X category, but I also had access to technology because our generation was, at the forefront of all of that technology. So it really was coming to be for me more in my, college years, post college years that the phones were really coming. I really noticed it with my own children though, because my children were born in the early 2000s, and that was the rise of the smartphone, and that has completely changed our lives and definitely our children's lives.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to jump into that because technology becomes part of, the next phase of your life. But I'm also really inspired by the discipline that a ballet dancer has to have. I mean, it's the nutrition, the exercise, the showing up, and things of that nature. Now, how has this discipline at an early age influence the kind of work that you're doing or the approach that you now have to either business, work, or just life in general?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that obviously, as a ballet dancer or a tennis player, anyone who's committed to athletics as a young person is getting the structure in place for what discipline looks like. And discipline is really showing up. It's showing up every day, even when you don't want to. It's making the best of difficult situations. It's managing your wins and your losses. It's so much. And a lot of kids still have that today, which I'm really grateful for. And there are some kids who struggle with that. And I'm sure there were kids who were struggling with that for every generation, when I was growing up and when you were growing up and beyond. So, the research shows that getting kids involved in athletics is really, really healthy for them, for their bodies, for their minds, and for their hearts.
Absolutely. You see, this morning I was actually struggling to put shoes on my little girl because she just wouldn't be bothered. She didn't want to go to school. And I'm starting to think you had to put pointy shoes on every single day.
I know if I show you my feet, they're actually molded. They're like made to be in point shoes. Like if I point my toes, you're like, oh yeah, a ballet slipper would fit right on there. Yeah,
Oh,
and that's so interesting too, because a lot of specialization is happening at very young ages. And, the bones are not fully developed at these young ages, obviously. And so it really does transform how your body is growing depending on what activity you choose to become deeply involved in at a young age.
absolutely. I really, really like this. So, I mean, obviously, once the tennis and the pointy shoes were hung for a bit, you obviously grew and you got a job with Bill Gates.
I did. Yeah, I did. There was a couple other little moments before that, but I did relocate to San Francisco in the early 90s and I began a sales career actually with my education and with my newfound opportunity as a young person here in a very urban city. And I did end up at Microsoft as part of my career. And that was such a great experience because I really love working with smart and competent people. So that was a really good opportunity for me.
Now, Michelle, there's a statement that Bill Gates has said, and I don't know if it's attributed to him correctly. He says, if you want something done, give it to somebody who's lazy, and they will find a way to do it. Was he referring to you at that time, or was that just a different person in
I
accounts?
act, yeah, right. Yeah, I actually find that to be a very incongruent statement with the environment that we were working in at Microsoft, which were the, best of the best and the highest of the highest performers at that time. Google had not existed yet, so that was at the beginning stages. It was a Microsoft and Oracle and a little bit of Apple, little Steve Jobs mixed in there, and that was quite a swirl early on in the Silicon Valley here.
Absolutely. I heard it was quite a factory, and there wasn't any windows in in the offices that you were working. And Bill Gates always told people you have windows on your computer, so focus on those ones.
That's interesting. Well, here in San Francisco, in the field office, I did have the pleasure of having beautiful windows at our office located at One Market Street, right at the ferry building and right at the Embarcadero there. So actually, I have to debunk that particular viewpoint. Yeah,
So
that perspective.
if you had windows, you were the ones that were the Internet Explorers then.
We were there. We were there at the beginning, exploring the internet and the world around us. That's right.
Absolutely. Always am intrigued to find people that were, at the creation of everything else, because I grew up around Microsoft, from DOS to the actual Microsoft.
Yeah.
It was all happening, and you can only imagine if you're literally in the crossbar of everything, that's, the factory of
Yeah.
everything that's being cooked. So,
That's
um,
right. I was launching Microsoft Windows and XP versions and selling into the largest enterprises in the Bay Area. So it was a pretty remarkable time.
absolutely. But you left all this, Michelle, and you went on
I
and
did. So what happened? Yeah, why'd I do that? Because boy, things were going great. I became a mother. I became a mother in 2002, and I just felt a massive shift, and I wanted to be with my daughter, and I really was noticing that things were changing for young children, and it kind of pulled me back to my roots. And after I'd finished dance, I did find yoga. I found yoga in the early 1990s, and it really just affected me physically, mentally, emotionally, and it really helped me be just the best version of myself, and not in just my high achieving form, but in my more, oh gosh, calm and connected and compassionate form as well. And that was really a turning point for me. I really noticed that. And I couldn't get to my yoga class anymore when I was a new mom. There just wasn't enough time in the day. I was working at Microsoft and coming home and, being a new mom and figuring that out. And at my yoga studio, our teacher there had always said something called a perfect practice was 5 A's and 5 B's, which is a series of exercises or a series of yoga movements. Anything else you wanted, and Shavasana, which is a closing meditation. And only takes 20 minutes and it does everything that you need for it to do. And so I started doing that at home in 2003 when, most people weren't practicing yoga at home. That kind of happened during COVID, but not then. And at the time, my daughter was 18 months old and she started modeling my yoga practice. And she was perfectly modified. And I was like, and it was so cute. And I was like, wait a second, you're either remarkable or this is typical. Like, what is going on here? Do kids even do yoga? And it just kind of like sparked a light bulb in me. And I just really set kind of a query about, do kids do yoga? And in the early 2000s, not really. I ordered 5 books when Amazon was just a bookstore, and I ordered 1 DVD, which was really just not that great. And I really looked at a lot of materials and I thought, I started teaching dance to children when I was age 10. And so I began to wonder if there was a better way for kids to do yoga. So I did 3 years of research and development and I created a better way.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to jump into that. But also, I couldn't wait to say this, Michelle. So it was quite exciting to hear your stint at Microsoft and everything else, but then it all sort of came to a stop because you had to, obviously be a mom and everything else. Does that mean you were Y2K, you were not Y2K compliant?
Exactly. I remember that moment in 1999. We had to go through the whole Y2K compliance. Yes, and everyone thought the world was going to end. I remember that. And then it didn't. So we just kept on going. We just kept partying like it was 1999, just like
that,
Friends.
and nobody has moved from there, right? Everybody still parties like it's 1999. And it's just quite interesting that you found a whole new way that you also then incorporated your kids, because so many people have this, demarcation between work and life, which makes it very difficult. And then they end up burning out, and you sort of found a way, and it's quite interesting that happened. But my question here is, we're now at a point in your life where we're literally crossing brain hemispheres here. You know what I mean? Everything else that we were doing with the Microsoft and everything else, that's all, achievement, high ranking, everything. That's very left brain. And now we're moving into some sort of, was this something that was visible at the time that was happening, or is it something that you actually can switch in and out of these hemispheres? Because not a lot of people can actually do that, and I think this is a skill.
Yeah, wow, that's a really good observation. And I think you're right. I think that some people do have a tendency to be either left brain or right brain, more creative or more logical. Somehow I was blessed with the ability to oscillate between both. So I had that movement, that dance, that creative, that component as part of my upbringing. I also had the structure of the education, the logic, the constructive thought process, critical thinking skills, all of those things along the way. So I think being able to balance between both of those worlds is something that I am fortunate enough to be able to do.
Fantastic. Now, you were about to tell us that it wasn't easy to find the right way to do it, and because nobody had done it before. Is it because it was so difficult? Because kids obviously have a mind of their own, and you can't really get things done. I don't know. I'm just speaking about my own kids here. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, this was an interesting process. So early on, it was just, I'm observing my daughter modeling me, and she's capable of modeling me in some, what I would consider, pretty advanced movements, actually. And so then it was just a sense of curiosity. How typical is this? How accessible is this? And then in my research and development, I became adult yoga certified, a 200-hour course. I did a prenatal and postnatal course. I did an infant massage course. I started to interview every pediatric professional, classroom teachers, occupational therapists, speech therapists, anyone who lived or worked with children, so that I could better understand, because I didn't come from an early education background. I came from a business background. And so I wanted to be able to fill in those gaps with experts in the field. And I really only had one question, which is, why should kids not do yoga? I was trying to prove, give me some evidence why children should not do yoga. And to this day, 20 years into my business, because I started it in 2005, I still have not answered that question about why children should not do yoga.
Absolutely. And just looking at the timeline there, 2005, 2008 was not a really good year for a lot of people. And
No.
you were still doing warrior poses, or were you now curled in fetal position still?
Yeah. So after that 3 years of research and development, we went to a public school here in the city, and I said, I have an idea. We think yoga is going to help the kids perform better and behave better. Can you help us test it? And I got to test the material with fifth grade boys and girls. And I will tell you what, that is where we learned the real deal, because all the pretty books and all the pretty pictures in the books became instantly irrelevant when you're dealing with actual 10-year-old boys and girls. And they're the ones who helped us refine our curriculum to understand what was effective, what we needed to change a little bit, what was completely ineffective or unsafe for that matter. And it's remarkable to me how some yoga products out there are still highlighting poses that are really not physically safe for kids to be doing. So in our system, it's very specific about what works, what doesn't work, and how we make it work really, really well for kids.
Absolutely. Now, I must ask this. We have noticed in the last sort of years somewhat of a decline in children's mental health or just physical well-being and things of that nature. And so many of us just attribute it to the devices that they're using and things of that nature. But do you also find that maybe taking people outside of the normal day-to-day humdrum and just having them being mindful might be what's needed for the kids we have these days?
Yes, I mean, the research shows that there are two antidotes to the impact of technology. And one that is widely researched now, it was not widely researched when we started, is all of the evidence around meditation specifically and mindfulness. Those are the two elements that have been studied. And of course, we've been studying exercise for many years. We know that movement works. We know that mindfulness works. We know that meditation works. We have all of that evidence now. So one antidote to the impact of technology on the growing body and brain are those three things. And that comes in the form of yoga. So what's beautiful about yoga, it is a self-competitive practice. There's no winner or loser. You get to show up and you get to be your best. And you get to do some pretty cool stuff. Kids are very capable in the system that we teach of getting upside down and turning inside out. And all of these things are really strong confidence builders for them. The other thing that the research shows works for kids as an antidote to technology is nature. And there have been books written about this, nature deficit disorder, all kinds of opportunities. We need the depth perception. We need to be living in a 3D world. So all of this screen time is two-dimensional, and it is completely messing with our ability to live a full and complete life. And so the answer, if there is an answer, or the antidote to technology, is to balance movement, mindfulness, meditation, and being out in nature in equal weight to whatever time we're spending online. So if I'm spending X hours online, I need to balance those same X hours not online. And that is why it's so important for children to be outdoors playing, playing sports, just having unstructured time and being out in the world.
Absolutely. I absolutely believe that in this world that we're in, we're more supposed to be in nature than in the artificial environments that we live in. And nothing in the world is straight or see-through, which we're sort of teaching our eyes to have that. And when you spoke about depth perception, there's so many people that can't even walk at night because that has never
Yeah.
happened to them. You know what I mean? And it's a beautiful place where you can actually watch the stars and everything. But because that
Mm-hmm.
hasn't been taught to them, that has been taken away from them and things of that nature. And that's the reason why I put, when my kids are sitting in the living room, I put the snacks in another room so that at least there's some movement between where they're sitting to.
Yeah, get some steps in to get to the kitchen. I
But
love it.
you might have parents that you know since our playgrounds have become so soft, Michelle,
Yeah.
it's because our parents, the parents these days are overly protective, overly helicopterish around their
Yeah.
kids. They don't even want to see anything going on. If a kid gets swiped by a bit of grass, band-aid on, and it's just that's the world we live in. What sort of advice would you give to parents that are maybe hesitant about introducing yoga to their children? Because as you said, it's self-regulatory, so there's no participation trophies, so little Johnny is not gonna receive anything for.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. Well, there are a couple of things that parents might want to consider when they're looking at activities for their children. One consideration might be what can my children be engaged in that's actually going to give them the life skills that they need to succeed. And in yoga, we are specifically learning 3 success skills. One is adaptability. The quicker that a child or that we can adapt to any situation, and particularly the environment that we're in, which comes from awareness. We have to be aware of what's happening inside of us and what's happening outside of us so that we can adapt quickly. And the more quickly we can adapt to a situation, the more resilient we become because we're able to overcome obstacles. We're able to move through challenges more effectively because we're more agile. We can adapt, right? And with that resilience, and this is a big word, at least in our communities right now, about how to raise resilient kids. That resilience actually generates confidence. And I know a lot of people talk about the idea of fake it until you make it, and that might work for some people, but it actually leads to imposter syndrome. You really can't fake confidence. Confidence only comes through competence. And when we are doing yoga from cradle all the way to college in an age appropriate way, we are developing confidence at every stage of development. And when a child is going through puberty and everything that they knew about the world is completely changing, both in their body and in their mind and in their heart, it is a real boost to have something that you can count on. And that is yoga. So yoga is going to be with you from cradle to grave. That is one fact that is true. So that's a good thing. And as a parent, I want my child to have those skills, and I can't get those skills in every activity. I can't get them in swimming, there's no gravity, so I'm not building bone density. Um, in soccer, I've got team sports, but I'm not really using my hands. I'm really using my feet. Basketball is a pretty dynamic sport, which is helpful. Um, Ballet, boy, that can be really hard on the body and on the mind, especially on the mind, because the goal here is perfection, and that's a tough one to achieve. So, not every sport yields all of the benefits that yoga does. And that's why I really believe that yoga should just be integrated into everything that a child does. There's no reason that coaches cannot be integrating yoga into youth athletics so that we can reduce injuries, improve mental performance, and really ensure that these kids still love the game. I mean, so many of these kids, if they do get to play D1 sports or play in college, they are really like broken down by the time they get there. Their bodies are broken, their minds are, like kind of out of it, and they just lost the love of the game. David Epstein, in his book called Range, says that overall, kids are specializing way too young, which is creating chronic, injury. And it's also just depleting their love of the game. The window is about 8 years. So if you're starting at 2, you can expect to be finished with that sport by the time you're 10. So we just have to be mindful and pay attention to what our kids truly love and what they want to do, and how do we provide the most well-rounded athletic experience for them, for their physical fitness and their mental health.
Absolutely. You see, with what you're saying, I absolutely love this, because yoga is something you can do pretty much just about anywhere, and you can be mindful just about anywhere. But with the games that you were talking about, you could go into an empty soccer field right now, or a football field right now, make a touchdown or score a goal. That doesn't count. It only counts when there's another team and it's within the time frame that
Right.
that sport has to be occurring. And in some sport like the NBA, there's a cap to the amount of people that can physically be in the NBA at any given time. And
That's right.
I've forgotten what the number is. I was trying to look it up before, but it's one of those things where, yes, you would have started at 2 and you would have wanted to go into the NBA, and then maybe you receive a career-ending injury and you haven't even gone off to starting night. So,
Yeah.
but with yoga, you can do it anywhere where you are, whatever it is that you're going through and things like that. I think you're onto something here. Now, what would be the best way
Yeah.
that people can maybe get started to look at what it is that you're doing, or maybe ask a few questions of their own, because each and every one of us have
Yeah.
their own path.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, so look, I started this business 20 years ago. We made it through 2008. Those were the toddler years of my business. That was the first crash. And we've made it through COVID as well, what I call 3 pivots in a twirl. We pivoted our programs online. That was a big deal for us. Everything we'd done before was in person. We believe in 3-dimensional learning. So I wasn't a big fan of social media or any of those things. In fact, I wanted it to go away, and I knew it was terrible for kids. So I wasn't engaging on it. And it was during COVID when I realized, oh my gosh, I am going to have to deal with this media monster, And so we kind of started to build our programming online during that period. We created 3 levels of training. I certify other leaders in our proven system so that they can increase their impact in their communities and their income. You can make, you could make a living doing this. I'm making a living doing this, right? And so being able to ensure that every child has access to yoga so that they can learn the success skills that are going to lead to healthier, happier lives is our mission. And I want to train 10,000 leaders so that we can reach 10 million kids. And I cannot do that without the internet. And so I'm really grateful for opportunities just like this because we have that system in place now. We have a very simple 8-module training that can be done in either 3 days or at your own pace that gives you all of the skills that you need to teach safely and successfully and really begin to make a difference in your community.
Absolutely. And I will be putting in the links so that people can find, all that relevant information, et cetera, et cetera. See, when I started looking up kids yoga, just so that I would be prepared for this call, I started seeing goats. And I know little goats are called kids.
Goat yoga. Yeah. These are clever gimmicks. They're very, they're cute, they're fun, they're adorable. They generate eyeballs and they, get a little buzz going about, what it means to practice yoga. Um, you know, Look, there, like I would say in everything, there's a light side and there's a very, serious side of what we do. I think what I like about the idea of goat yoga or yoga with puppies is that it is fun and it is playful. And I will tell you that in working with children all of these years, if it's not fun, they're not going to come. So we've got the right blend between, the science and the psychology and the system that actually engages a child's body, mind, and heart from 0 to 18, from start to finish.
Absolutely. And from 0 to 18 is a long time for somebody to become an adult. Is there, I mean, obviously without citing names or any information that could identify the person, but is there, like a case study or a story of somebody who started off with you guys and now they're just really become this, whatever benefit it gives you guys that we can hear just so that we can validate this whole thing? Because I was about to sign up for the goats looked cute.
Goats are cute and you're going to get a great picture. Yeah, there are so many success stories. Let's just share a few examples of categories like the high performing athlete, the high performing youth athletes, that I started working with, who's now at IMG. We started with him when he was maybe 8. He's an 8th grader now, and doing like really on his way to being a very successful young athlete. I have no doubt that he's going to become a college athlete, and who knows what will happen for him after that. That's the category of the high performer. Let's talk about the category of maybe the challenged performer, maybe a child that is struggling with some developmental disabilities, maybe a child who's in a wheelchair even. Let's talk about how yoga can be done from a chair, right? And so we have programs that are meeting the needs of children who might be on the autism spectrum, who might be struggling with anxiety or depression, right? And so here we have two ends of the spectrum, someone who's really struggling, maybe just to walk or to function and get through the day. And you've got another kid who's like, going for the M.E.D.I.A, right? So we've got these two polarities, and then we've got everybody in between. So what I really love about, what the truth is that stress does not discriminate, all right? Stress does not discriminate. Everyone experiences stress. And so in order to strengthen your system, in order to stretch your mind, and your ability to handle difficult situations, and ultimately to be able to stress less, is really what our goal is. And so you might be stressed about where your next meal is coming from or where you're going to spend the night. You might have housing insecurity or food insecurity, and you're at a public school and you have access to yoga, right? Or you might be in the most elite, 1% community, and you're still under stress because you have performance anxiety. You've got to get to the Ivy League college or the whatever other demand is being placed upon you. So stress does not discriminate. We know that. We know that everyone is struggling with anxiety and depression. We know that these numbers are only getting worse. They are not getting better yet. And it's because our kids don't have the skills. Our adults don't have the skills. You talked about parenting styles. What else can a parent do? A parent can look at their parenting style, right? Permissive, authoritative, lawnmower parenting, snow plowing, all kinds of these different terms. We do teach something that I call Zen parenting. Zen parenting is your ability to work with your child so that you can assess and solve problems together respectfully. It creates more respect, more connection, and more ability to actually go with the flow, right? That doesn't mean we just let things go. It means that we work together to get all of our needs met. And that takes a bit more attention from maybe the way that we grew up, which was, you do it this way, and that's the only way there is to do it, right? So lots of different ideas that are going on here. And ultimately, yoga helps us tap into our own system, our own ability to regulate, which is what you were talking about earlier, to manage our energy up or down, and to show up and be the very best version of ourselves. And that's when we're proud of ourselves, right? I mean, we've all made mistakes where every parent is like, oh, wow, can't, wow. Oh boy, that was a doozy, right? And how do we make it right? How do we model repair for our children? How do we model accountability and responsibility and mutual respect? And I have to tell you, I missed telling you I had another kid, so I've got a second one who was born in 2005 when I opened the business, and I consider myself a yoga mom, and I can sincerely say now that my kids have both launched, into college, and I had that empty nest moment, and I reflected, I have zero regrets. I am really proud of who my children are and who they are becoming as their own beings. I am proud of the versions of myself that I've evolved through. And something happens when you start teaching yoga to kids too. As a parent, you kind of end up reparenting yourself. So anything that you may have picked up from your parents that may not serve you anymore is something that you have an opportunity to recognize and let go. And anything that you learned from them that was just spectacular, you get to carry with you and carry on. And I think with that consciousness, that level of awareness and conscious choice, we can all be healthier and happier and proud of ourselves.
You're using the right words there, especially conscious, because the world has been designed in such a way that it's easy and we get everything that we want yesterday. You know what I mean? Like it's
The instant gratification,
instant
right? Mhm.
gratification. Yes, that's the word that I was looking for. And if somebody can stop and just pause for a moment and then just savor whatever is around them, maybe it could be nature, it could just be the person in front of you, because just looking at a kid or like a baby, have you ever noticed we all start talking in baby language because we really want to connect with that little one? So I can imagine if you've got them in front of you 24/7, it's just something else. But you did, and you keep referring back to community, all right, and
Yeah.
how that can be something that keeps this perpetual, because if I'm going to be isolated by myself and then my whole family just doesn't understand what woo stuff I'm taking my kids to, you're going to need some other people that sort of have an understanding of what you're doing. That way everything that happens during the session doesn't come undone, especially when people are now exposed to, say, the real world. If you'd ask me, what role does community play in the success of your program, and how are you managing to foster this?
Yeah, that is really essential. So what I learned is that, community does revolve around our children's activities, right? If you've got a child that plays baseball, you're on the bleachers, right? And that's your community. And if you've got a child who's on swim team, that's your community, or any other sport. So you're at the club. If it's, you're on the court, you're on the field, right? You're picking you're picking your pitch, you're picking your plot, right? And so community, when we're talking about yoga, is really lovely. And we happen to be located here in the Presidio of San Francisco, very close to the Golden Gate Bridge. And so we're blessed to have nature right here. We run holiday camps and summer camps. And so we're really able to provide a lot of activity for children and care for parents who are working. And we also provide and teach family yoga. So every weekend, we have the whole family unit come together. Yes, we provide school, after school programs at school. So yoga as an after school or during school enrichment activity, yoga as a camp when there are school holidays or summer breaks. And then we also have every weekend family yoga, where parents come with their children to experience yoga together as a family unit and in connection with other like-minded families. And that is just a really heartwarming and beautiful thing. And we also do that for our baby yoga classes, where we have new parents who have these, precious little beings and want the best for them. And they're starting off their lives and their children's lives with mindfulness practice and healthy, developmentally appropriate movement for their little ones. And that is building a better brain and body connection. We've got a lot of kids, a lot of babies who are stuck in the bucket, I call it. They're always in the car seat or the stroller, and, getting your child out and on the ground and moving. I actually wrote a book about it because yoga is meant for babies. Every one of their developmental milestones is a yoga pose. And so it's really important to get our bodies and our minds and our hearts connected from day one. And community is how we get that done.
You see, your whole journey writes itself, Michelle. Because what's the first point in a game of tennis?
Right. The first point is the serve, right? Love 15.
The point is love.
Yeah.
And
love all. There you go. Love all. 0-0.
So that's the basis of all of this. And then it then stems into, your stint in ballet, which obviously did the whole discipline of following some sort of routine. And we didn't even touch on Disney, which we should have, because that's also another whole life. But now the Disney part is connecting with the family aspect of what you're creating and how you really want to bridge all of that together. And Microsoft is the business side of this whole game.
Yeah, it's so true. You're absolutely right. And what I love about the business of Disney or the business of Microsoft, is the balance or the polarity between, look, let's be real. Disney is a business, right? It's an entertainment business. Microsoft is, is an entertainment and an education business. And that's kind of what It's Yoga Kids has become. It's Yoga Kids is not an entertainment based system, but it is a play based and developmentally based system that is designed to build a better being, to build a better human being. And it is a joyful practice. It's also challenging. It can be frustrating. You get to experience the full range of emotions when you put yourself on a yoga mat and start balancing on your hands or on your head, or, and you're twisting and trying new things, to see what you're capable of. And that's what I love about yoga. There really is no end and there is no perfect. There's just the practice. And the things that we practice both on the mat and the principles of yoga that we practice off the mat are really designed to help us be better human beings.
Absolutely beautiful. And you've literally created a passion driven career right there. Like it's an amalgamation of everything that you're doing. So somebody might just be looking at this going, wow, isn't she lucky? What sort of insights can you maybe derive from how you've managed to pull this together to somebody who's also looking to follow their passion while creating something that obviously pays them and keeps them sane?
Yes. Well, guess what? I've done all the work for you. I wish there was a me when I was looking to do this, because I would have gladly paid for the mentorship or the opportunity to learn from somebody who had already done it successfully. And now I am that person. And so that is why we are committed to training more leaders, because every child deserves access to this system, and all of the work is done for you. I do publish a blog every week, so there are free tips on our website published every Wednesday that are relevant to what's happening in the world. We just finished Black History Month. We're entering Women's History Month. There's so much that's going on, and I really love research, and so I'm always taking in new data and incorporating it into our system. So there are always free tips on our website. You can also download some freebies that I have about how to handle tantrums and moods, or how to elevate performance for your young athlete, or how to calm your baby. Those are all free guides that are available now, along with just how to make your wishes come true, because, we're here to be, we're the only ones here. We're here to be, we are the magic that we need to see in the world, and we need to be the bright, shiny stars that only can be. And I really like to celebrate that in every child.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait to see you celebrate um, the success of what you're creating, because I viscerally believe in life. We're here to live, to learn, and to contribute. And in order for us to live our best life, we need to have learned how to be, do, and have all of the things that we need. And I think you've done all of that. And, when I came across you on the internet, you were just at the top of the elevator, sending it down and helping others elevate as well. I can't thank you enough.
Yes.
I can't thank you
I
enough.
can't thank you enough. I feel very blessed that your email landed in my inbox. I'm very impressed with the work that you're doing. You're ability to generate the authenticity and the story with the people that you are working with or that you're discovering and helping to elevate is really inspiring. And so I want to thank you for all of the work that you're doing to highlight people like me. And it must be really a joy to be exposed to so many interesting people with wonderful stories to share.
I'm gonna receive that first. Thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, as you have eloquently said, there's 6 degrees of separation. Right now, I kind of feel like I just high five Bill Gates slowly, because so you can imagine the depth of stories that come across, and also just trying to piece together people's parts and really exploring the reason why they're doing this. And in your case, you want to help, is it 10 million kids to have a happier existence. And that's God's work, and you're
Mm.
there doing it single-handedly. And I know you've got teams and people like that, so who am I to stop you from reaching those 10 million people?
Oh, well, you're here to help me because we've already reached a few thousand and we've got a few thousand more to go. So, the good news is that, I've taught my training here in the US, I've taught it in China. Now that my kids are launched, I'm ready to travel and teach more. So maybe I'll even make it to Australia one
Oh,
day and get to be there. I know there's quite a wonderful community there. And yes, I think this deserves to be everywhere.
absolutely. Well, Australia is open doors. I mean, just make sure you land in an airport, because there's so much land in between. You might think you've arrived, but you haven't. So, but I can't thank you enough for obviously sharing these insights. I think this really is going to make it to one of the best ones we've had so far. It's different, it's unique, and it's got depth inside of it. And you were talking about depth anyway within the show. So yeah, I'm really, really excited for the journey that you are going to be on. And your life story and your experience have so much value. And I mean, obviously, you already know this, but it just reminds us of the power of aligning your passion with purpose. So many people are just
Mhm.
living you know, unlived lives. They just
Yeah.
go through life and they don't quite know what it is that they're supposed to be doing with themselves. But you now have this thing that's, pushing you and pulling you forward. So I think this is amazing. And I hope people who are watching this are definitely gonna jump on board, because yeah, if Michelle's story resonated with you, just consider exploring its yoga kids and the transformative
Yeah.
programs that they offer. Either you can approach it as a parent, you can approach it as a grandmother, you can approach it as a grandparent, you can approach it as a teacher, or you can approach it as somebody who wants to also help other kids be, do, and have a happier existence. So there's something for everyone here, right? And if maybe it doesn't resonate with you, share it with some mom who is probably just wrangling her kids at the park somewhere where you've just seen her. She just might use, what Michelle is teaching here, and even the free resources that she mentioned that I'm going to be putting in the show notes below that will help, people just have a happier existence. All right. So stay tuned for our next episode, where we're going to be exploring ideas to cultivate a happier lifestyle. Until then, keep thriving and embracing your own unique path to prosperity. Bye for now.